Hey everyone, it's March 25th, and that means that if today is your birthday, you share it with Gerard Schaefer, a serial killer who spent time as a police officer, killing perhaps as many as 100 victims in the late 60s and early 70s, and that is him right up there. Schaefer was born in 1946 and grew up in Wisconsin until the family moved to Florida in 1960. He was a troubled child, being beaten often by his alcoholic father, and developed violent sexual fantasies that he would satisfy by tying himself to a tree and beating himself at the age of 12. It was at that age when his fantasies began to involve women, becoming a peeping Tom and stealing the underwear of a neighbor who he was strongly suspected of killing a few years later. In 1966, he began seeing a psychiatrist to help with his issues, but he continued to fantasize about hurting women, and unfortunately, the help he got wasn't enough. Later that year, he left on a tour with Moral Rearmament, the group best known for the Up With People movement, and considered joining the priesthood. He was rejected from St. John's Seminary, which angered him enough to quit the Catholic Church. Schaefer then attended Florida Atlantic University, making him the worst person to be affiliated with that school until Lane Kiffin coached there in 2016. He attempted to become a teacher, but was dropped from a student teaching program for trying to rigorously enforce his own moral and political values on his students. In 1972, Schaefer became a police officer in Florida for a small-town force after twice being rejected by Broward County for failing a psychological exam. He was known to look up the personal information of female traffic violators, then call them to ask for dates. That year, he picked up two teen girls who were hitchhiking, drove them to a swamp, held them at gunpoint, put their heads in nooses, and left them balancing on the roots of a large tree where if they fell, they would choke to death. Luckily, they escaped, and when Schaefer realized they were gone, he called his boss saying, "I've done something foolish. You're going to be mad at me." Yeah, I'd say so. He was apprehended, fired, and held for false imprisonment and kidnapping. Imagine that, a police officer being held accountable for his own actions. While out on bond, he picked up two other teen girls, tied them to a tree, and shot them in the face. Their skeletal remains weren't found until the next year, but when they were, the true nature of his crimes came out. A search of his home revealed hundreds of pages of writing and sketches depicting the torture and killing of teen girls, the IDs of hitchhikers who had been found dead, newspaper clippings about missing women, and a collection of jewelry in which pieces were traced to 13 and 14-year-old missing children whose skeletal remains had recently been found. Schaefer was only convicted of two murders, but is suspected to have committed as many as 100, giving a statement stating, "I would say it runs between 80 and 110, but over 8 years and 3 continents, one whore drowned in her own vomit while watching me disembowel her girlfriend. I'm not sure that counts as a valid kill. Did the pregnant ones count as 2 kills? It can get confusing." He then disclaimed his own statements, declaring his innocence of all charges, yet later published Killer Fiction, a book describing how he killed dozens of victims. In 1995, another prisoner in Tampa slashed his throat and stabbed him in both eyes, killing him. If this was your birthday, hope you had a great day. If you know somebody's birthday it is, send them this video so they can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Gerard Schaefer, I have to say, happy birthday, you bastard.